Welcome back. Great topic today with Shelby Volo from Abbott Wealth Management. It's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're talking about couples and their finances.
Yes.
And as it turns out, couples would rather talk about death, apparently, than talk about their finances and how they're working things out as the family household. That's crazy.
It is very surprising to read that one. Yeah, I would never have guessed that.
That is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to talk about money, and even more so, they would rather disclose their income to you than what they've saved or what their debt load currently is.
That seems right.
Yeah, definitely.
You have a story about the Depression. Do you want to get into the boards first? Or?
Yeah, we'll go into the boards here.
Okay, let's go into the boards.
So our first one is kind of talking about where did this money taboo stem from? So it actually stemmed from the British because they said, you know, it's rude to talk about money. We don't want to talk about that. And it kind of became this thing. But back then, it was determined, your net worth was determined by your assets. So how big your house was, how many cars you had, how many servants you had, where you vacationed, how many yachts you had. That's how they determined your wealth, because then they knew how much money you had. Whereas if we think about today, you could have all of those things and be going completely broke.
Yes.
So it's very different. And 70% of people in a poll said it is rude to talk about money. So it definitely is still a concept today.
I think that 70% of people who say it's rude to talk about money, it very much depends on who you're talking about it with.
Yes.
Right? And you should be talking about it with your family, your spouse.
And you know what? They're saying that they don't want to talk about it with their family or their friends.
That's crazy.
And even a supportive spouse, the other partner doesn't want to talk to them, especially if they have a lot of debt.
Well, then how do you ever get out of the hole?
You don't.
Crazy.
And then your partner doesn't know that, and it's probably very shocking because this was another thing. This one spouse didn't know they were responsible for their spouse's debt. And they didn't know about the debt.
Sure.
But if you're married, what's mine is yours, right?
Yes.
So that's another thing that's a big deal.
Yes.
And the other thing is it is intergenerational. So if you're a parent, you didn't talk to your kids about money and how to budget and how to save, then they're not going to talk to their kids and so on and so forth. And then even talking amongst friends, no one wants to feel embarrassed or ashamed about maybe their financial standing versus someone else's. So again, it's taboo to talk about it in that situation, which kind of is too bad because it could be really helpful for some people who aren't educated in saving.
And you know, I have a situation I can tell you where I've known of people who, because they didn't talk about their finances, they go to get separated and they don't realize the other person has somehow managed to take a second mortgage out on the house.
Yep.
And the other person doesn't know, and then things get crazy.
And then it's a big shock for the other party. Huge financial surprise.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Financial surprise.
Yeah, it's
not a good
for
one.
it.
Yes.
Also, Fidelity did a survey that concluded 43% of respondents didn't know how much their partner earned or how much they had saved currently for retirement.
Wow.
I thought that one was really scary.
That is frightening. Wow.
And 44% say that financial chats are the most difficult chat you can possibly have, which again kind of talks about, you know, would rather talk about that than death. So I'm not surprised about that stat.
No kidding. Yeah.
And then our second slide here. So it creates a major strain in the relationship when there's secrets. So we kind of just went over that, you know, the spouse getting a second mortgage and the other one not knowing. So 20% of people keep financial secrets. So not good. 7% of people between 18 and 49 have a secret credit card or bank account that they keep from their spouse.
That's frightening.
That is terrifying.
It is, because I suppose a lot of couples will have a joint bank account. So if you do, and you don't have your own separate bank account, you have to have a separate way to whatever, buy what you want to buy on the
Some
side.
people really do that main bank account where all the bills come from, and then they each have their side thing going on.
Sure.
But I don't always, it probably works for some people, but it does create the opportunity for someone to be in the dark.
Oh, yes.
It's like, even if you want to keep them separate, it still would be maybe good to talk about what's in there so there isn't a surprise.
Sure.
And going back to the recession story I was going to share with you, there was a couple in the States who had a house and appeared to be doing very well. The one spouse, being the female, didn't have any interest in the finance side of things, which is common. And so the husband managed all of it. So then the recession hit. And his idea in his mind was, you know, I'll get a promotion and I'll square things up then, like the next promotion, you know, putting it off to the side. Also very common. So the recession hit and he had to tell his spouse that they were 2 weeks away from bankruptcy at the same time the recession hit.
That didn't work out well for them, obviously.
You know what? They powered through it and they got over it.
Good.
But now they have a weekly financial sit down and the other spouse is completely involved now.
Which is, I think, so important that both have to be.
It is, because like, can you imagine being in the recession situation where you're going to be filing bankruptcy and then you were over here thinking everything was fine?
Yeah, no, that's a frightening thing.
So big financial surprise. And again, like I said, it creates a huge strain in relationships when there are those financial surprises that create fights. And it is said that money is the number one thing that people can have a divorce over. So why not prevent it?
Absolutely.
And have those talks?
We have not very much time left, so we should probably get into the next board. Is it the last board already?
Third board.
Oh, third board.
So kind of exactly what I said. If you have those talks, you're going to be happier. Also, how do you know what your goals are if you don't talk about them? How do you know if you want to pay your mortgage off and be mortgage free at 45? What do you want your income to look like in retirement? What does that look like saving right now? If you don't talk about that, how are you going to get there?
Absolutely.
There was another story where a couple lived on one income and saved the other one so they could retire in their 40s. Wow. Pretty crazy, but it's a great idea if you can do that.
Yeah.
So this was the homework. Slot an evening with your spouse to have a money date and put it on your calendar and have a once a month review. See where your budget's at, see if you're on track, see if you can save more, see if you are accomplishing your goals or on the right track. And also you're monitoring that progress. So you both have, like, it's not the financial burden on one party. It's on both.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Absolutely. Great advice today, and something I think a lot of us are guilty of. It's something to think about. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. Abbott Wealth Management, if you would like to get a hold of them, abbottwealth.com. Quick break. We're right back. Stay with us.